Okay, I'm just testing what the audio sounds like. So, just taking a walk on a weekend, trying to get in those vitality points. And been thinking about and reflecting on the podcast and how it's been going so far. We're about 10 episodes in. By the way, I hope Dinesh Govender is watching this and proud of me for the Discovery Vitality plug in the points mention. But anyway, I've been reflecting on how far we've come in, I think, about 6 months. This angle is not great for me because it accentuates the double chin. So hope you're listening and not watching. But yeah, the podcast has been going great. And I wanted to do this little special episode of reflection. I think reflection is a good thing from what I've heard and read about. I'm a big fan of podcasts and all these types of things myself, and they always talk about that kind of thing. Reflecting and looking back and being grateful. So it all started with episode 1 with my cousin Yak Lindy, the dentist. I honestly thought episode 1 was going to get about 15, 20 views. Obviously, I'd hoped it would do better, but my expectations were very low because I know how the internet works. And I knew I wouldn't be spending any money at all on advertising / marketing / putting it out there. So my only hope was that because Yak has a big following, it might get some traction, some yaction. And I was pleasantly surprised at the reception. And again, excuse me because I am walking and trying to get my vitality points in. You can see here my average heart rate currently is 130. Don't judge me. I'm super unfit. The Yak interview was about 2 hours long. And we went deep. Probably deeper than most of the other episodes. But it was fun. It was a great learning experience because it was the first time I'd ever interviewed somebody for that long and in that context and situation. And I've only watched that episode a couple of times, and I know it sounds weird to say that, only a couple of times. But this pet project, this is how I am. I keep on going and watching all my videos, but I only watched that one twice because it's a bit cringy. I think I've improved over the next few guests. I've become less of an interrupter. I'm trying to give my guests more space to talk without interrupting them. Episode 2 was the one that went viral, in inverted commas, because I said to Yak, his interview walked so that Caiphus's interview, that was interview number 2 with Caiphus Gofhamodimo, the surgeon from Botswana who was born in Botswana and studied here and now specializes here. That thing took off. I mean, it's on 7,000 plus views on YouTube. And it was fascinating to see the analytics on that one. Because it blew up in Botswana. Most of the views and hits came from Botswana. And most of the views came from people's YouTube homepage. Meaning that they had seen it on the first page that you go onto when you're on YouTube. Which means YouTube was putting it on people's homepage. And I've been interested in looking into how YouTube works. And from what I understand, the way it works is it's designed to give the individual viewer what they want to see. So if YouTube thinks that you want to see this kind of thing, it'll push that kind of thing to your homepage. So clearly there was appetite, especially in Botswana, for people to see Caiphus' interview. I think it was also a really cool interview, the way we started off with me playing the clip, his speech at my wedding. And I think that kept people into it. Guest number 3. Okay, well, so Caiphus was, if we're just looking at number of views, Caiphus' was hands down the most successful interview. I've got a couple of new wearables if you're watching. I don't know if you'll notice. First is glasses. So from the time I started the podcast to now, that's what's changed. I wear glasses. And just a couple of days ago, my orthodontist gave me Invisalign. So shout out to my orthodontist at Hugo Orthodontics. Coolest ortho practice in South Africa. Not paying me for this. I'm just saying that because I'm biased because Yuvthi works there. But anyway, so after the Caiphus episode, I think we had Dr. Q. She was the second dentist on the show after Yak, but I don't really see Yak as a dentist anymore. So, even though he very much is, but she was the second dentist, and the first guest that was not somebody who I grew up with as a friend or family. So it was this interesting change for me to see how I go with guests that I'm not super familiar with. And just for your info, I mean, these episodes take a lot of preparation on my part. I thought I would just rock up and speak. But from episode 1, I find myself preparing, creating a list of potential questions that I'm going to ask the guest, and hopefully make it look as natural and as flowy as possible. I got a lot of feedback on the Caiphus interview via comments on the video. A lot of people criticizing me for interrupting. I loved it. I mean, obviously, naturally, I didn't enjoy those comments. But those are the comments I want. I don't want people telling me well done when actually they think that I'm annoying for interrupting people or whatever. So as hard as it is to take, that's the kind of feedback I'm actually inviting, genuinely. So Dr. Q was a learning experience. Also, Caiphus' was a learning experience because a lot of comments, a lot of people saying, calm down, let the guest speak more. So that was that. After Dr. Q was my first guest whose title was not doctor. I didn't want to say he's my first guest who's not a doctor, because there are people that differentiate and distinguish between doctor and dentist. But it was my first non-doctor, and it was Sister Letmore Chigudu, my colleague, who was born and raised in Zimbabwe and became a nurse there, and then moved over to South Africa. So I was the first nurse on the show. And that was the first indication that I was giving to the world that even though the show is called Why Did I Become a Doctor, we're not restricting ourselves or limiting ourselves to doctors. It's healthcare professionals, right? Or so one would think. But that was also a really cool episode, which got a lot of views in Zim and a lot of listens in Zimbabwe and a lot of feedback. It was a cool interview. So the first taste of doctors on the show. Then came my sister, Thegesha Naidoo. First immediate family member. First immediate family member. Probably the only one. Unless I get my mom or my dad on the show. But, yeah. So that was an interesting one. It was difficult for me. I mean, firstly, it was such a mission getting her to agree to come on the show, firstly. I don't know why. She was reluctant to do it. But that's what I expected most of my guests to be. But secondly, it was weird because I think it might have been the longest conversation I've had with my sister in one go, one-on-one, like maybe ever. And some comments were like, why is Yash bullying you? Your brother's quite hectic. He asks quite blunt questions. But, I mean, those who know us will know that that's the way we communicate with each other. But it was difficult because deep down inside, as I'm asking her the questions, I'm just hoping that she doesn't say something that I need to cut out. Not that I think that she doesn't know how to carry herself during an interview, or that I think she's going to say inappropriate things, because I didn't think that. But there's something about dealing with friends and family, or family specifically, where you just don't, you want to make sure that you're not making them look, you're not casting them in a negative light. I think she did well. But if you watch that episode, you'll probably see my body language that reflects that I'm a bit apprehensive and guarded. And that's the reason why. I know that I could easily put it out anything. And I have had to do that on some episodes or some interviews. Not much though, so it's made my life very easy from an editing perspective. But that's the reason why I looked the way I looked in that interview. It went okay. It did well. I think it did relatively well, and she got quite a bit of nice feedback from friends and colleagues and things like that. So it was Letty, Thegesha, and then the next episode was very different, because that was the first time that we had a non-clinician in the show. And that was Amith Gosai. Amith Gosai was the first non-healthcare professional. I knew he would have a great story because, I mean, he literally does drive a new car almost every week. And he started this vlog, even though he's in engineering, he's like a part-time car blogger, slash reviewer, slash journalist. And I didn't know his story about Riva Steenkamp. And that his blog got sort of went viral because he'd done an interview with her, and that he used to interview all these FHM models and things like that. So that to me was super interesting. The problem with the Caiphus interview was that even though when I started the pod, my expectations were very well managed for myself and low. In other words, I expected to get like a handful of views. After the Caiphus episode, and with that thing getting like exponential growth, I sort of had this expectation that all my videos would do that, but they didn't. So I used to get a bit concerned when I'm only getting a couple of 100 views on some videos. Whereas when I started off, I was thinking, 20 or 30 will be great. But it was a learning experience also. To tell me that just because one does well, not all are guaranteed to do well. That was quite interesting. Amith was fun. It was cool to have him. And also, I wanted to show that we don't have to have healthcare professionals on the show. And I'm sort of putting it out there that this is more than just a healthcare professional's blog or podcast. It's about careers, actually, and life choices. You could see me getting progressively sweatier and sweatier. And I'm going to get my 300 points for this. That's cool. For sure. After Amith came Gunther. First Namibian on the show, first white guy on the show. White person. I wonder if anybody noticed that besides me. I'm sure they did. But yeah. So that was fun. He'd flown in for the weekend to go to a concert from Namibia. He flew in to Joburg with his wife. They were going to a concert and managed to steal his time for a couple of hours and have fun catching up with a mate from campus, which was awesome. Who came after Gunther? After Gunther was Leero, another dentist. So I've had how many dentists on the show? Leero, Gunther, Yak, Dr. Q. That's 4. Overrepresented. But anyway, the Leero episode was a whole lot of fun. Because Leero, I think that conversation was probably as close to how I envisaged the show to be as possible, in that we just spoke. I don't think I even used an iPad. Yeah, I don't think I had my iPad with me on that show. We literally just freestyled. So I didn't even have reference to any pre-planned notes and things like that. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And that was a whole lot of fun. And it's around that show that I discovered this AI tool called Opus Clips. Anybody that's thinking of getting into podcasting or especially on the video side of things, you got to look at Opus Clips. It's amazing. So what you do is you feed it the video. So after I've uploaded it to YouTube, I'll feed it the link, and it goes in and it watches the video for, watches. It analyzes the video using its algorithms and AI. And it takes about 20 minutes for like a 2-hour interview. And it creates all these like snippets, these shorts of interesting moments from the episode. And I just tell it beforehand that this is a podcast, so it knows what it's dealing with. And apart from that, it also like creates the captions automatically generates captions for the specific clip. And even more than that, what it does is it analyzes what's being said. So it doesn't just randomly pick segments. It tries to find interesting like snippets of conversation. And it also rates how likely that snippet is to go viral online. And that was a massive learning point for me, discovering this thing, because people pay big money to humans to do this kind of thing. And here I am paying like $10 to this AI thing online when it does it. And it's around this time with the Leero interview that I also said, let me dabble in TikTok and create a TikTok channel. And like uploaded a couple of videos, and then I uploaded this one talking about how I failed chemistry in first year and only got 27%. And that thing shot off. It got like 20,000 plus views. People really could relate to the content. And there were comments and likes, and it was fascinating to see. If you give people stuff that they can relate to, what they find relatable, I think that's golden. So that's when I started dabbling in AI and TikTok, and the Leero interview was super fun. And I'd gotten requests from other people to come on the show. That's another thing I was pleasantly surprised by, having started this journey. When I started, I thought to myself, it's going to be extremely difficult to get people willing to come on and speak. And I couldn't have been more wrong, because I've had requests from many people, to my surprise, to come on and speak. I'm surprised because, like, I don't see myself as a huge platform. I've got a big following, a relatively biggish following on LinkedIn, not huge, not massive. But I just didn't expect people to give my thing the time of day and to bother. But people do. So that was cool. Then my last published guest, fascinating human being, fascinating medical doctor, studied here, KZN, and now lives in the USA and is a life coach. Dr. Nondumiso, Makhunga-Stevenson. That's the last episode we published. I thought that was going to be a difficult one because, again, it's somebody I don't really know personally. But the conversation flowed and went well. It was fun. And if you look at that episode and compare it to the first one, I think you'll notice a big change or a big improvement in my style and my interviewing style and the way I ask questions and how I pace things. So I'm proud that I've improved over a few episodes. The reason why I say Dr. Nondumiso is my last guest that I've published is because I've had two more guests after that interviewed. Lovely, lovely episodes. I can't wait to release them. I'm just waiting for the green light and the go-ahead in the right moment. It's going to be... You guys are going to enjoy it. Medical doctor... One's a medical doctor who doesn't even do medicine anymore. He's a music producer, spoiler alert. And the other one is a super brilliant dentist who also doesn't practice dentistry anymore. And then, looking ahead, I do have quite a few cool guests lined up or in the pipeline. Physician, an obstetrician who's very close to me. That's going to be fun. Planning on shooting next weekend, hopefully, in Durban. And then also a doctor who's in forensic pathology who became a lawyer and then became a doctor again. And so there's some cool stuff lined up. It's going to be awesome. It's somebody who was speaking to me said to me, the part that you're going to find difficult is to keep the content fresh. And I said, no, to the contrary, that's the easiest part because everybody has a unique story. As much as you think that, okay, somebody's done the degree and gotten the job, every single person has a fascinating story behind it. And not necessarily, like the interesting story is not the part where they're studying. It's about how they got there and all around it. Before and after. So it's been a really cool learning experience and journey so far. I think it's only going to get better and better. And if it doesn't, then at least I will personally get better and better. That's my thinking. If everything else fails, I'll still have learned so much from this. I'll have learned how to speak to people. I'll have learned how to, edit videos and use AI and make sure audio is syncing properly and figuring out how to set up, because I do everything so far. Like, I get to Yak's studio, I set up the camera, I set up the mics, I put the video together at the end, I chop off things, I do the editing, I do the uploading, I do the social media, I do the posts and try and plug it everywhere, and I speak to people about the show and tell them subscribe. Oh, and that's another thing. So I haven't spent R1 or $1 yet on advertising. And one of the guys that I'm getting on the show, Elton Lau, is a brilliant businessman, and who's, even though he's not a doctor or a dentist, his work touches literally hundreds of dental patients every day. He told me I got to go all in and market and advertise and all that stuff. And I said, no, I just want to see how it goes. I want to learn from it first. I want to figure it out. And then eventually I want to start pushing. Remember, this is a side hustle, passion project, all that kind of thing. So I also don't want to get in trouble with the wife, like, putting all my cash into something that's just a little fun hobby. But eventually we'll get there. There will be opportunities to collaborate, etc., etc. I'm just going to keep it vague there. And yeah, so as I was saying, I've learned a lot, I'm learning a lot. And most importantly, I'm actually enjoying the actual interviews. Like, I've got to be honest, even though I really enjoy it, there will be days where I'm like, oh no, got to get up and go and meet a person and record and do all this stuff. So even though I really enjoy it while I'm in it, there's some times where I'm like, oh goodness, no, don't feel like. But as soon as you push through that feeling of, I want to do this today, you actually get there in that chair with the other person. Super fun. There's also planned a little bit of insider information here. We've also got plans to get Dr. Yak, my cousin, as a co-host. When I initially started this show and I created the logo, it says, why did I become a doctor? It's got the two hands with gloves on. And at the bottom it says, with Dr. Yash, Naidoo and friends. When I initially created it, it actually said, with Dr. Yash, Naidoo and with Dr. Yak Lindy. And I sent it to him and he was like, nah. He's not in the right space at that time to get involved. I think now that he's seen how it's going, and that I actually am not a BSer and a doer, not just a sayer, I think he's slowly warmed to it and he's going to come on board. And so that might be the first co-hosted episode, might be with Dr. Yak and Elton Lau. So just a bit of putting it out there into the world and making it a reality. That should be fun and interesting, because Yak will bring a totally different perspective and dynamic to the show. He's his own boss, so he's got a bit more creative, what's the word? Creative, I can't think of the word now. Where's ChatGPT when you need a freedom creative freedom to express himself than I necessarily might. So yeah, I think it's about 10 episodes in so far, give or take. Future's looking bright. I hope to keep going. And, to all of you who've given me feedback, negative and positive. Positive is great. I love it. Please keep it coming. But please also keep giving me negative feedback or constructive criticism. I genuinely mean that. It means that you actually care, because you could easily just press next and move on. So thank you for taking the time to go out of your way to type in the comment section or to message me or wherever. Please keep it coming. I hope to keep you interested, and I hope that we can do a lot more. One of the common points of feedback that I've been getting is that the shows are too long. The episodes are too long. I totally get it. Like, most people don't have more than an hour or two to sit and listen to a couple of people rambling on. I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Do you want shorter episodes? Personally, my view is that long form is the way to go. And I'll tell you why I say this. It's because some of the best parts of the conversations I've had are towards the end, after the guest and I have been speaking and warmed up. I feel like the first 20, 30 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes is just us getting warmed up and getting comfortable with each other. And I think that's why a lot of these shows, these popular podcasts where interview style podcasts are much longer format. And look, you can always just chop it up. That's my view. Chop it up and watch it over a few days of commuting or doing exercise. So I'm more than likely going to stick to the long format. The conversation only warms up and defrosts after a certain amount of time anyway. But I want to hear your views anyway. And maybe you can convince me otherwise. Let me know. One of the other things that I've learned, actually not really learned, but one of the things that I've gained from starting this show is that it's created a really cool conversation piece for me. I know it's going to sound shallow or whatever. I don't know how it might sound, but like, if I go to social gatherings where I'm having to speak with people that don't know me from a bar of soap, it's actually a really cool conversation starter and like a small talk item. I've had the opportunity to talk about quite a bit. I'm going to my daughter's school kids' birthday parties and things where, all the parents are just milling around while the kids are having fun. And, instead of just having to talk about the weather and work and the traffic and the dysfunctional traffic lights in Joburg and the potholes and all that stuff, it's really fun to talk about and like quite cool to see how interested people are in it, and then to say, yeah, just subscribe and watch it, and then like at the next birthday party catch up with the person and they're like, oh yeah, I started listening, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, even picked up the kidlet from aftercare last week, and the aftercare teacher, while I was signing the kidlet out of class, she says to me, oh, I was just minding my own business on Saturday and your YouTube channel popped up on my feed. I was like, oh, cool. That's awesome. I hope you enjoy it. She said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I hope you subscribed. And then she didn't say anything, so I left it. I should have pushed. But yeah, it's given me such a cool conversation piece, and like it's really cool when people say, hey, I've seen your show, and people message and whatever. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing this thing, any fool can do it, including myself. It's so simple. All you need is a camera, and you need people to speak to if you want to do this kind of thing. And I think you must do it. You're really, like, if you're on the fence about it, just don't worry about the equipment and don't worry about production. The most important thing is the content. And actually the hardest part, and I'll never forget my one boss, Maria Philippides. She told me, Yash, when there's any project or any work that needs to be done, and for this, in this context, Maria was telling me about it in the context of writing a legal opinion for a client, which is going to be a big opinion, and you need to sit down with it. And you can do it, but you just need to start. And she said, Yash, all you got to do, the hardest part, and all you got to do is touch it. Once you touch it, it'll come to life. And so if you're on the fence about it, I'm telling you, just do what Maria Philippides said. Touch it, get into it, and just keep going. Even if you get like 2 or 3 views, keep going. Start it. Invite me on your show. I'll be a guest. If you have people that you want to be on my show, send them my way. Give them the email address, info@whydidibecomeadoctor.com. Send the recommendations. Tell them to find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok. Instagram is a good place to get. LinkedIn, is a good place to get me. We've got a page there also, which is on like almost 500 subscribers. They're not subscribers, but followers, which is big for LinkedIn. People don't really, and for a little 6-month-old operation that has nothing to do with anything. So yeah, I digress. But if you're thinking about it, just do it. Touch it. Do what Maria says. Just touch it. So yeah, let me see. What are my points on here? I'm still on an average of 130 beats per minute. So I'm going to make like 300 points if I just do 15 more minutes. So Dinesh will be proud of me. Mr. Governor, thanks for the support when I announced it initially. I hope you listen. And I hope you enjoy. Okay, cheers everyone. Oh, and just the last thing. I never ever say this or do this. And I should. I always wonder why creators do this. But I've understood now that I'm in it. What I want to say is, please, 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 if you're liking it, please like it, like literally, physically. Please click like. And if you really like it, please subscribe. And if you really, really like it, please also share. I used to always think, why did these creators say, oh, please like, share, and subscribe? Because it's obvious that we will do that if we like it, and if we want to share it, and if we want to subscribe. But actually, the analytics tells me that that's not the case. Because there's so many returning viewers and listeners that are not subscribers. And how I really figured this out, figured out that it's not so obvious to just click on like and subscribe and share, is that I've got a lot of close family, uncles, aunties and stuff that watch. And I have to manually share every episode with them. And I'm like, have you subscribed? Why don't you just subscribe and put notifications on? And some of them don't know how to do that. Some of them are not, don't have like actual accounts to enable them to do that. So please, just look for that thumbs up thing. Look for this button that says subscribe. It says subscribe. Subscribing is free. You're not paying anything. And share it with your friends, your families, your aunties, your uncles, all that. And let's make it something that people look forward to, and hopefully create informed career choices, informed choices into healthcare. Because what I've learned from my latest episode that I haven't published yet, well, not learned, but confirmed, is that if you get into it, knowing what you're getting into, you're going to be that much better at it. And the community and the public are going to be that much better off for you being in it for the right reasons. Okay, everyone. That's just the last word. Cheers, eh? Bye.